Hi guys, welcome back to Aram's Vegan Vida. So on today's video, I will be showing you guys how I make my stuffed shells. They will be stuffed with my very own homemade ricotta, some vegan sausage, some spinach, and topped with my homemade sweet basil tomato sauce. It's so delicious, and yeah, that's all I really have to say. But one thing I did want to say, if you guys don't have access to the specific sausage I will be using in this video, I definitely recommend substituting it with whatever you have accessible to you. For example, you can use vegan ground beef or maybe another vegan sausage you have accessible to you. But nowadays, vegan products are super accessible, especially because in this video, I'm using Beyond sausage. I've seen it at Food for Less. I thought that was crazy. That is usually like a store that didn't carry vegan meat even like 2 years ago. So the fact that I've seen it on their meat aisle, Beyond sausage, is insane. Like, it also runs cheaper there than big brand stores like Safeway, Vons. All fails, they do have it online. I can link down below if you guys really want to follow this recipe like step by step. But like I said, you can substitute it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. So to start off with this recipe, I'm going to be showing you how I made my cashew ricotta. I used my tofu press to get all the liquid out of the tofu. You want it to be relatively dry. If you don't have a tofu press, you can just take kitchen towel and place books over it, if that makes sense. At this point, I'm just drying it a little bit so that way it could be drier than it normally was when it came out. Now I'm placing it into the blender so it could be ready to blend as I put the rest of the ingredients in. Next up, for some creaminess, half a cup of soaked cashews. Next, I will be adding some apple cider vinegar for some tartness. I definitely recommend adding lemon juice instead. This day I did not have any, so I chose to add apple cider vinegar. Now for some added cheesiness, I'm adding 1/4 of a cup of nutritional yeast. 1 teaspoon of pink salt or salt to taste. Okay, now that it's ready, I pressed puree for around 10 seconds because then I decided to take a spatula and kind of clean up the sides to make sure that everything blends thoroughly and evenly. Okay, so now I'm turning it back on, blending it for a couple of more seconds because you want this to be chunky but also creamy, but not too creamy because then it'll become more of a liquid. So I suggest just keep an eye on it, and when it reaches a consistency that you really like, it's ready. And there you have it. This is what it should look like. Kind of thick, being able to grab onto the spatula, but also creamy. So now that your ricotta is ready, you can add any additional seasonings you might want, like garlic powder, onion powder. I chose to add black pepper. Now I'm pouring it onto a bowl so that I could put it in the fridge to chill while I make the rest of the ingredients for this recipe. Now I'm gonna mix in some fresh parsley. I chose to not blend this because if you put this in the blender, it will definitely turn your ricotta green, and unless you want that, I don't recommend it. And there you have it. The ricotta is all done and ready to chill in the fridge. And now we're gonna get started with the sausage. Today I will be using some Beyond sausage. You can use the original sausage or the hot Italian. On this day I chose the hot Italian. I think they're packed with more flavor and I just love them. Anyway, so I'm gonna be placing all 4 of the sausages onto the hot pan. So I'm gonna crumble them using 2 different utensils. I found that way it was easier and faster. Fast forward 2 minutes later, this is what it's gonna look like, all crushed up and crumbled like this. I'm not gonna lie, this was kind of an arm workout. Okay, so now I'm gonna let it brown for 5 minutes or so. Just keep an eye on it. Give it a little mix every 30 seconds or so, or 1 minute. Now that it's been like 5 minutes, it's pretty cooked but not like super brown. So at this point I added 1/4 of a cup of diced white onion. That way it could also caramelize alongside the sausage, give it a little mix. Adding no oil because Beyond Meat tends to release a lot of oil. It's pretty flavorful, so there's no need to add extra oil. Okay, so now I'm gonna switch burners. I'm switching this over to the left side because we multitask in this house. How else do you get things done? I'm gonna get started on the homemade tomato sauce. So I'm using half a cup of onion that's already been diced, 3 cloves of fresh garlic. You can do 3 to 5. Now for some olive oil, I'm adding half a tablespoon. Not necessary, but it does give it a little bit of flavor. I'm mixing this around because I will be cooking it until the onions are translucent and the garlic is fragrant. This is on medium heat. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but yes, on medium heat. The sausage is also on medium heat. So now that I mixed it around, I'm gonna be adding some greens. 3/4 of a cup of chopped spinach. Spinach does like literally almost dissolve as soon as you add it, so you can add more than this. I definitely recommend adding maybe twice the amount. Depends on how much you love spinach. I personally love spinach. And again, multitasking, just keep mixing around those onions and garlic, keep an eye on that sausage. And I also have a pot of boiling water in the background. I didn't get it into the frame, but I used the Barilla jumbo shells, as you can see right there. Onions and garlic are ready, so now I'm adding some diced tomatoes, 1 full can. Give that a little mix. Next ingredient I will be adding is a can of tomato paste. This is from Trader Joe's. And give that a little stir. And I'm also multitasking, like I said, so I'm stirring off camera. You can't really see it in the frame there. I'm stirring around my jumbo shells. I cooked them to whatever the packaging said. I believe it said like 7 to 9 minutes. Now that the tomatoes are all warm and yummy, I'm adding 1 cup of broth. You can do vegetable. I chose to do vegan chicken broth. Now for some added flavor, I'm adding 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning. And also adding 1 teaspoon of black pepper. And of course, some pink salt to taste. And give that a little mixy. Next up, my favorite ingredient, 1/4 of a cup of fresh basil. To cut some of the sweetness of the basil and the tomatoes, I added half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. I'll simmer for 15 minutes or so that all those yummy flavors could truly come out. In the process of making my sauce, I took out my shells, so here they are, all ready. Now fast forward 15 minutes later, it is now ready and you can turn the burner off. Yay! So now that all the ingredients are done and ready, it is time to assemble these jumbo shells, starting off with some of that tomato sauce, spreading it on the bottom of that glass pan. So now I'm going to be actually filling the jumbo shells, starting off with some of that ricotta. You're going to want to open the shells, be a little gentle with them because you don't want them to break. Adding some of that sausage scooped on top. And there you have it. It's pretty self-explanatory, so just repeat the same process for as many shells that fit onto your pan. One little tip I have for you guys is to speeden up the process, you can mix the ricotta and the sausage together to make one single filling. I chose to not do this because with whatever leftovers I have left, I want to use them separately as opposed to only having one filling left, if that makes sense. So now 27 jumbo shells later, I'm gonna take the homemade tomato sauce and pour it on top. Make sure you distribute the sauce as best as possible. Next step is optional. You can add some vegan cheese as a topping. I added some Cup Fresh Vegan Mozzarella. I got this on sale, so I chose to use it on this recipe. Okay, so now it's all done. I placed this into the oven at 350 degrees for 20 minutes. Okay, so now here is the final product. Freshly out of the oven, I topped it with some fresh parsley. It came out so delicious. Here's a cross section for you guys. This is what they look like on the inside. Some of that yummy ricotta, some of that delicious sausage, and that amazing tomato sauce. I definitely recommend you guys make this recipe for when you guys have friends over, a potluck. It is definitely a killer recipe and I could not be more proud. I hope you guys try this at home. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!